Gang. Blouses.
I don't know what to say. So, I'm not crying. I'm stuffy, but I should be crying. This is not going to be a fantasy episode. I accidentally recorded one with the wrong audio yesterday, and boy, am I glad I did, because I got some things that I would like to say. This one goes out to all of my friends who are unfortunately still dealing with the bullshit of being an Orlando Magic fan. I don't know what I saw last night, but it wasn't what we promised. It wasn't what we think we're going to be. And the first look at the in-season tournament, to me, I wanted to fucking stick an ice pick through my eye and give myself a lobotomy watching us shoot the fucking basketball. It's crazy to me that even though we have three guys that are regular staples in our rotation, Gary Harris, Markelle Fultz, and Wendell Carter, two of the three of those guys being starters that do a lot of great things that are intangible for us. Markelle controlling the pace, and Wendell offering not only an escape valve for a corner three when the offense breaks down, but somebody who can actually, anchor down low and not let anybody that is, grabbing offensive boards to just have a fucking picnic down there, which is what we did last night. And, no disrespect to the Nets. They're a good team. We've gotten lucky recently playing a few teams that are, banged up or still figuring it out. And we stole some wins from teams that quite frankly, I think are going to be much better than we are down the stretch. And to be honest with you, I don't think we're that good of a basketball team right now. The numbers don't say that we are. A lot of the, you take out a couple of our wins that we stole, and we're way further down than we need to be. So this whole leveling up thing has to stop, and it has to stop being talked about, and it has to be done. Because everybody around you, everybody here, everybody watching this team is going to tell you one thing. The reason why you are not winning games is because you can't shoot the basketball. That is true. Yes, that is the root of all of our problems. The teams are daring us to shoot the ball. But let me tell you what a high school coach said to me back in the day when I shot a shot wide open in a game that they were begging me to take. He said very politely, "There's a reason you're open." Jalen Suggs, there's a reason you're open. Goga Batadze, there's a reason you're open. These guys are wanting you to take threes. Okay, Cole Anthony hasn't hit water out of a boat in 3 games. That's our 6th man and social media manager. And to be quite honest with you, man, Anthony Black, I'm a big fan of his intangibles, but everybody needs to fucking calm down about this kid from 3. We need to relax, okay? He's a good defensive player, could be great, very in your face, very intense, very reliable on that end of the floor. However, we have shown recently that we do not play well against guard-heavy offenses and teams that like to shoot from the perimeter. We hung in there against the Hawks, but then we laid a fat egg at the end of it. And, of course, of all fucking people, DeJounte Murray, the all-star of the Pro-Am, the Seattle Pro-Am tournament, hits a dagger against us with, 7-8 seconds to go or something. I don't know what it was. Wasn't enough time for us to do anything. And, we have that happen to us. And then last night, Dinwiddie and Mikal Bridges, even though he's a forward, he's more of a guard, in my opinion, just because of his ability to stretch the floor and shoot and slash and get by you. He's not a traditional, back to the basket, power forward, lengthy kind of turnaround finish guy like Kevin Durant was in Phoenix when they both played together. It's very different. He was hitting daggers against us last night. Spencer Dinwiddie, for the love of God, he is so good against us, and I really don't get it. He's averaging, I believe it's 12, 6, and 3 going into last night's game, or 12, 5, and 3, and I think he had like 29, 8, and 6 against us or something. I was like, what the fuck, man? Like he kills us. I would love to. I didn't do it in my show prep this time, but I would love to look up advanced stats of how he plays against the Magic, and I would guarantee you it's probably his most favored offensive matchup when he plays us. It's crazy to me though that this is our first look at the in-season tournament. Now they're judging it by 3 ways. For the Americans that haven't done this before, I needed explaining. It's a little unclear after the pool play, but as far as everything goes, it's just like an AAU tournament growing up. So everybody's saying, like, I don't understand. What are they going to do? Just fucking figure it out. Okay, it's not that big of a deal. It's an in-season tournament. It's a tournament within a season. Just like you guys used to do in all sports growing up. There was always a mid-season tournament, end-season tournament. We always did something like that. So they're going to base the pool play winners off of record. If there's a tie, they go to point differential, which we're sitting at minus 20 right now. So we've almost mathematically eliminated ourselves from any sort of contention. And then the third tiebreaker is points scored, which we had 104 last night. So you better hope to God that we don't tie anyone in this, because we're fucked if we do. So best case scenario right now, and I'm sorry for getting loud. Best case scenario, I'm sorry to Randy Bobanders in our league, but we got to fucking beat the Bulls. If we don't beat the Bulls in this back-to-back situation that we have coming up Wednesday and then Friday is another in-season tournament game. If we don't beat the Bulls back-to-back, which we should because we are a better team than them, we're dead in the water. I mean, I saw the snowball starting to form on Thursday night when we couldn't close against Atlanta. Atlanta is the bane of our existence. Say what you want about Miami always being at the top of the division, but you got to take baby steps before you start sprinting. And the only thing that we are going to be able to accomplish right now and set our sights on is beating the team that's directly above us. I'm not worried about Charlotte. I'm not worried about Washington. No disrespect, but I think you guys have bad basketball teams. I don't think the Magic are that bad, but it's frustrating enough that we are just above them. That's what makes me mad. That and the fact that we won't be able to surpass Atlanta without figuring out how to close tight games. It happens every year. We're always right there with them, and then we lay a fat fucking egg right in the middle of the court, and it's over. We have no way of containing guard-heavy offenses or shooters at all at the end of games. We are not a clutch-performing team. We don't shoot the ball well. We have nobody that we can give the ball to in crunch time that says, here, go make a shot. And especially not from 3. I mean, we could maybe get a Paolo, mid-range pull-up or a post, a little, step into a hezzy, potentially back to the basket, a little fadeaway over the top. That might get you something, but in terms of drawing up a 3-point play at the end of the game, we have not a fucking single person on this team that can hit a shot in a clutch situation. Not one. It's embarrassing, it's sad, and it's annoying that we're still talking about this. Yes, Gary Harris is going to help when he comes back, but how much is he going to help? He's not even in the starting lineup. He's shooting 50% from 3, but, on a limited amount of attempts, so take it with a grain of salt. Still our best 3-point shooter, who's out and is allegedly going to be out for a long period of time. And then you have the Markelle Fultz problem, which, conspiracy alert, I think they're holding him back, and I think they're trying to see if we're ready to hand the reins and the keys to the kingdom to Anthony Black at the starting point guard, because seemed fine. Kel seemed fine, and then all of a sudden, he's got a knee swelling problem. He's going to miss 3 games. 3 out of 4 he's missed, I think. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Anthony Black quite yet. I like offensively. I should correct myself. I'm not a huge fan of him offensively and what he will do for that. I think there's a lot to be excited about for him, and I would rather him lack a little bit on the offensive end than the defensive end, because defense at this level is way harder to instill and to teach. I've said it so many times. Defense, 90% of it is hustle, and 90% of it is mental. Yes, there's a lot of knowing where your players are hot from, knowing, which screens to go under, over, when to switch, how to stay disciplined in screen-heavy offenses, and in certain situations where your back is against the wall and you just need to dig in and get a stop. Those are the intangibles that I love about Anthony Black. I think he's got really good instincts. Now, Magic social media went nuts posting him hitting his first three, and I would look. I was the same way. I was like, "Holy shit! Finally, we got a guard who can hit a three." Hit a couple of them against the Lakers his first start, and yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. But he's kind of tapered off. He's not a fantasy guy, not going to get you big numbers, but he is going to be the new future starting point guard of the Orlando Magic. And I think that we are going to bring Kel back. We're going to have him, play against a couple shit teams and boost his trade value and send him and Gary somewhere and get a shooter in return, because the guy that we signed who was supposed to be our shooter, I know it's only 2-point percentage, but Joe Ingles this season shooting 27% from two. It's a big contract for that. So just got to hit one of these. Somebody kill me, please. Okay, I'm trying not to yell, but this is very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. Fans of other teams around the league will hear this, and they will say, you're being pessimistic. You're being negative. You're being down on your team. And to that, I say this. I've waited a long fucking time. I've taken a lot of shit. I lived in Miami. Well, close enough to it. I lived in that fucking cesspool when the Magic were having their worst run in franchise history, and the Heat were taking the Backstreet Boys to the finals 3 fucking years in a row. So watching that and seeing that and going, one day, we're going to be at the top of the mountain. Hey, I don't even want a title at this point. Just give me the top of the Southeast Division. Just something that I can say, you know what? We had a good year this year. I'm damn proud of this team. Miami blows it up, takes 1 year to recover. They grab Jimmy Butler, and they are back to the finals again and again and again. And Atlanta improved. Atlanta was terrible before Trae Young got there. Terrible. And then all of a sudden he comes there, and he's the next coming of Christ in Atlanta. He's the greatest thing that Atlanta has since Dwight Howard. Yes, he was born there and came to us. It's unbelievable how bad we consistently are. And even in the sense of this, okay, we are the most boring team in the division. And I say this because no matter how bad Washington gets this year, there's always going to be somebody on social media, and there's going to be a narrative on ESPN or some goofy play that hits national networks that involves Jordan Poole sticking his head in his own ass, and Kyle Kuzma dressing like a fucking clown, and the Wizards being this bad. And there's always going to be that. And at the same time, there's also going to be people that want to see LaMelo Ball play. There's going to be people that want to see Brandon, that's not my gun, Miller, play for Charlotte. And great, I'm glad. There's a lot to be excited about with those two teams, even though the excitement is rooted in, let's see what this fucking clown does today. And not to mention that Mikal Bridges is coming back. Or I'm sorry, not Mikal Bridges. Miles Bridges is coming back, and Coach Clifford, former coach of yours truly, the Orlando Magic, said that he's going to have an immediate, significant impact in this rotation and roster. Good. I hope he does. And I hope you feel good about playing him, because that's insane. So the Southeast Division is just riddled with all these teams that are way more interesting than us. And I think that takes a toll on you as a team. I think that immediately says to you, like, oh, we're not good enough. We're not important enough. This is just something that happens to teams in these kinds of markets. But, Washington's not in a huge market. Charlotte's in a not that big of a market. Atlanta's a mid-market team. Miami's even a mid-market team. I mean, they're one of the premier now, but they're not New York, Boston, or L.A. It's yeah, sure, they're in the top 5, but it's not a team that, to the casual fan, outside of everything, would seemingly get a bunch of ESPN coverage. Philly, Boston, New York, LA, all those guys are going to be at the top of the list. Now, Miami is up there because of their recent success. All right, I said it, and I want to throw up in my mouth. There you go. For anybody listening, going like, really? How come they're not a top? Go fuck yourself, okay? Go enjoy it. Go enjoy it, and don't fucking talk to me about it. All right. This is what I'll have to say to everybody that is an Orlando Magic fan right now. And it's just a big I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you have to deal with this. I'm sorry that you have to defend this team to people. It's like listening to Coldplay. It really is. It's like, hey, I really like these guys. Like, you like that? You like those guys? We're like, yeah, I'm a fan of the earlier work, but like now it's kind of rough. But I'd still want to go see them. It's exactly the same thing. You're embarrassed to root for somebody that is doing so poorly in the most recent run of their teams and career history, music, whatever you want to compare it to. It's embarrassing. You guys gotta fucking stop with this horse shit and focusing on. We gotta start focusing on not only just winning basketball games, but playing smart. Jamal Mosley admitted last night that the game plan is for us to shoot over teams when they are relaxing back in a zone and packing the paint. I mean, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe he means that's the game plan for them, for the opposing team to dare them to shoot. But at the same time, if you're aware of that game plan, don't fucking shoot the ball. Just don't shoot the ball. I don't understand why we continue to do this. Okay, let's run down these stats. All right. We are 24th in field goal percentage. We are 27th in three-point percentage. We are 21st in free throw percentage, and we are 24th in turnovers per game. That means that we have nothing in the top 10 in terms of that. And turnovers are a big thing for me because we literally hand the ball to the other team so much in pivotal moments of these games to the point where I want to fucking punch through the screen and grab one of these guys and choke them. It is unbelievable, R.I.P. Bobby Knight. It's unbelievable why this is still a thing is unbelievable to me. We're not at the park, Jalen. We're not at the park, Cole. We are having an NBA basketball game out here. Do not fuck around and hand the ball to the other team anymore. It is unbelievable how many times this happens. Okay. Despite all the negatives, I will say this. We are top 5 in defensive rating at 108.1. However, we're 23rd in offensive rating at 109.9. So that's fucking great. We're doing everything we can on the defensive end. I mean, Jalen Suggs is going to be a hustle stat leader. This is going to be a thing for the entirety of his career with us. He's going to be probably top 10 this year, maybe top 5 in steals. He'll be up there in deflections per game. He'll be in there in loose balls recovered. He's going to be in there in dives to the floor. Like, he's a maniac. He's gonna get his hands in passing lanes and cause problems. He hustles. He runs a lot. He's very hard to stave off on the offensive end. Or if you are the offensive player, I mean, it's disappointing to me that we don't have someone in a clutch situation that can just be like, get the fuck out of the way. I got this. And I know I'm being hard on these guys. Paolo is 21, just turned 21 over the weekend. Franz is 22. Dell's 24. Kell's, 25, 26. Jalen's early 20s. I can't remember if he's 20, 21, or 22, but he's young, too. Anthony Black, 19. A lot of these guys are so fucking young, but here's the thing. The guys that have been on this team, this is Jalen Suggs' third year, okay? This is Franz's third year. This is Paolo's second year. This is Wendell's second full year with the team. This is Markel's third full year with the team, barring any injury. I mean, you could say second or third, but whatever. It's just, I've had enough of this whole thing of, like, we brought back a lot of players. I think we had the most returning players on opening night that were on our active roster. And that's something to be said, because we, as the Orlando Magic fans know, we lose a lot of people in free agency. Now we lose Mo Bamba, which not really that big of a loss. We lose Bol, which is a defensive nightmare of a situation to have out there. I mean, you want to talk about bad defense? Holy shit! This guy, we had to go in zone defenses every time he was out there because he could not stop anybody. And anybody out there saying like, well, Bol's the same as Victor Wembanyama, we we just didn't know we had. Please stop. Please stop saying that because you sound dumb. Everyone that hears that goes, oh yeah. They're all calling you an idiot on the car ride home. That's the stupidest take. It's not. It doesn't hold any water. It sinks immediately. Do not say that ever again. Our other big problem as a team is that we don't perform in the second half. We relinquish all these halftime leads. We had one against the Clippers, had one against Dallas, had one against had one against Brooklyn last night, and then we end up losing those games by 15 plus points. So it's not necessarily something to say is a definite problem, but something that I look out for in terms of success and team success and looking at the box scores and correlating it to wins. Third quarter total points. About 80% of the time for us this year, the winner of the third quarter is going to win the game. Now you have to take a lot of it into effect. How you come out, in the first quarter is also a big chunk of the rest of the game. It seems we get really, really bogged down in the beginning of our games because our offense is just, the ball gets sticky. We don't take good shots, and the other teams just run these. Brooklyn did it to us last night. They were hungry immediately, ran a couple quick hits, bang, bang, and then the only offensive option that we had that got a wide open look at the basket twice in our first 3 or 4 possessions was Goga Badazi. And that's because, number one, they're wanting him to shoot the ball, and number two, because when the guards get by everybody, defense collapse, and he's the only guy. He's the last man standing. So there's a lot of issues, but it's a lot of the same. I'm not repeating. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said. Okay. The problems are that when you play good teams, this is just like in March Madness when you watch a 16-1 seeding matchup in the first round of games. You go, holy shit, fucking ITT Tech is almost beating UNC, and then it's the first 8-9 minutes of the second half, and then you're like, oh shit, they figured it out. So yeah, a lot of what happens in the NBA specifically, in basketball as a whole, is the good teams make adjustments at halftime to bury you, to absolutely fucking throttle you. It's happened to us 3 times already. We go into the locker room up, I think it was 13 against Kyrie and Luka and the Mavs. And Luka, even though he bitched about a ton of shit, he came out there in the second half and he absolutely flamed us. Kyrie went nuts against Anthony Black. He just wasn't ready. And, the same thing happened to us about a week before against the Clippers, pre-James Harden. I wish we would have played him after they acquired him because it seems like they can't fucking figure it out. Still defeated, by the way, 0-5 with him on the team. Closest game last night, oddly enough, against the best team in the West, Denver Nuggets, but it's neither here nor there. We did the same thing against the Clippers, and then Paul George and Kawhi Leonard go into the locker room and they say, hey, who are these fucking guys and why are they beating us? And guess what? They torched us. They ended up having a plus 20 point differential in the third quarter against us, 41-21. I remember that specifically because I just watched Paul George turn into playoff P in Indiana all of a sudden, and it was just very frustrating to watch. And we're going to lose a lot of games this year if we don't figure out how to shoot the ball and if we don't figure out how to incorporate some sort of consistent and reliable offense at the other end of the floor, because our defense is fine. But here's the thing about defense. It doesn't really fucking matter anymore because you have so many guys out there that can just kill you on one night. And it just, look, top 5 defensive rating. I really don't put a lot of stock into defensive rating anymore because you're just going to get beat. And if your offensive rating isn't that high and you're dragging both teams through the mud, the better offensive team is going to win, despite what the defensive rating says. We can dig in and make a stop and make something happen, but is that our reliable option? Is to dig in on defense and actually get a stop on the perimeter when we need to get a stop? No, it's not. It's not. Here are some more advanced stats for you. We are 29th in the league. There's 30 teams in the league. We are 29th in the league in terms of assist to turnover ratio. We are 26th in effective field goal percentage. And we are 27th in our turnover ratio, which the only teams below us are the Suns, the Pistons, and the Jazz. Suns are kind of a weird one because they don't really have anybody right now. But I would say that anytime you're in the same pairing and same group as Utah and Detroit this year, it's not a good thing. No disrespect, but it's just not. And we have made 91.4% of our threes from an assist. That's the second highest in the league. So you flip that, and the unassisted would be 8.6%. Meaning that when we are deflating the ball at the top of the key, or we're just pounding, and waiting for something to happen magically off the dribble, we are shooting. We're only making 8.6% of those out of all the threes we make in the game. It's not saying we're shooting 8.6%, but saying that as an unassisted three, we're not shooting those and we're not making those. So it's just interesting to see because a lot of the guys that have players on their team that can just break you down and do it, it's just frustrating to watch, man. It really is. Our free throw numbers are plummeting too, severely fucking plummeted. Shout out Phil Leotardo. Paolo shooting 65% from three. Wendell shooting 57%. Everybody else is roughly around the 70s and 80s. Caleb Houston at 100%. Keep it up, buddy. I think he's only shot a couple, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't want to harp on this any more than I already have because I think a half an hour of this is enough. But again, to the fans of this team, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for pointing out the obvious, but here's my take for this year. Number one, Markelle Fultz and Gary Harris get moved for a shooter. We have to. We have to get another shooter on this team. For me, when I watch this team, every person on this team that I watch shoot the ball, I never go, that's a good shot. I'll never, like when Cole Anthony pulls up it seems like half to 3/4 of his shots are contested heavily enough to alter it. And a lot of the times it's very early in the shot clock too. And he's a runs guy. When we're up and we're running and we're moving, he's going to get a magical and one that ignites the crowd. He's going to hit a dagger somewhere when we're already moving. But in terms of a starter and a momentum builder, he is not that guy. You're not that guy, pal. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say. Paolo's got to figure it out. I made a joke on the episode that I forgot to tape the right audio on. That if you want to play defense against Paolo, the best thing for you to do is just leave him alone because it seems like he misses a lot of open, uncontested shots, especially from three. And you can see a little bit in the offense in the sets when the ball swings to him in these defensive breakdowns and when these zones kind of collapse when we get the ball in the middle in the high post, he's very hesitant to shoot it when he gets the ball. And we can't have that. We have to have a guy that can take the ball and be a threat to shoot it at any point at all. Last night it happened to us a bunch. Royce O'Neal, Spencer Dinwiddie, Lonnie Walker, Mikal Bridges, and one other guy was Cam Johnson. Yeah, of course. Cam Johnson was killing us. They were all killing us. I mean, every time you thought we had our foot in the door to kind of like squeeze back in to be like, hey, we're still here. We're still hanging around. Every fucking time, bang, clutch. Just nothing but net, man. And it's crazy how much these stats were inflated last night. I mean, Mikal he has 21 last night. Dinwiddie had 29. And it wasn't really a matter of like guys lighting it up and going crazy. Like nobody was putting 40 on us like Trae Young did the other night. It wasn't anything like that. It was just death by 1,000 cuts. These guys were just killing us from deep the whole time. I was texting the fantasy league group chat. I go, these guys are absolutely crushing us from the perimeter, and we can't have that. If we don't have an answer for that, and they're baiting us to shoot, you fell into the trap, man. This is what they want to do. They are hanging back and packing the paint in a zone defense so you can shoot yourself out of this game. They do it every time. It doesn't, not necessarily the Brooklyn Nets, but every fucking team. Every team knows that when we play the Orlando Magic, I dare you to shoot the ball. I fucking dare you to shoot this and make this against me. Because we don't have anybody on their team, on our team, that I look at or anybody looks at and goes, that's a good shot, that's going in. It's not a thing. No one on this team is deadly or is reliable from deep. That's a fact. If anybody wants to say, oh, well, we have Jett Howard. He's a sharpshooter. Jett Howard got buried on the bench. He's played a half a minute a game, and he's shooting 12% on all the shots he's taken this year. So tell me more about Jett Howard. Tell me more about Cole Anthony, our sixth man, who hasn't hit water out of a boat in 3 games. Tell me more about Caleb Houston, who's supposed to be a sharpshooter. Tell me more about Chuma Okeke, who is supposed to be this stud coming out of Auburn, another guy we drafted with a known knee injury problem. This is the same thing that we deal with every year. Every year we go, we're fine, we're going to be okay. These guys have improved in the offseason. We're looking good. We're going to level up. And then we take a fat shit in the beginning of the season like this. And look, we have a tough schedule. We didn't have an Eastern Conference opponent for quite some time. We didn't, and we didn't even have a home game against them. We played in fucking Mexico City. So take it for what it's worth. If we played in Orlando against Atlanta, with that situation, happening at the end of the game, being that we only lost 120 to 119, I think that we end up winning the game if we do play there. If we play in Orlando, maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself, as Mark Wahlberg would say. Okay. We got to trade for a shooter. We have to do it because Joe Ingles is not the guy. I mean, he played well last night. He did great. He shot very well from beyond the arc. I think he ended up 4 of 4 from 3 in the half. He looked good. It's just a guy that you're not really paying attention to in the scouting report right now, and then he comes out there and he can still hit him. But is he worth his contract? Is he worth what we paid to get him here to do this? I don't think so. The second thing I'm looking for in terms of the turning point of this season, yes, it's early. Yes, I'm being a pessimist, but you fucking deal with this misery for the last 10 years. The Magic have won the least amount of games in the last decade. Do you know what that's like? Do you get it? Because I know what a lot of people are going to say, like, why don't you just pick another team? It seems like this frustrates you. I'm too deep in, baby. I gotta ride this out. You know what I mean? I'm like season 5 of Dexter right now. The rest of the show might suck, but I got to hang out to see the ending. Everything's fine, and then Rita dies, and then you're like, oh shit, this just got good. This got interesting. And then 3 seasons later, they take a fat shit. And maybe we'll get a reprise, and 10 years later, we'll have something that kind of wraps everything together and gives us some sort of closure. We stink right now, and there's really nothing else that I can say. And the pessimistic side of me is rooted in truth. It's rooted in factual evidence that has happened before. I'm not just going, oh, we suck. This is terrible, and I'm a fan of the fucking Heat or the Sixers or the Bucks or the Celtics, where eventually they're going to figure it out and they'll be okay. This is not that thing. This is not what happens with the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic have a problem with stringing together terrible losses in the beginning of the season, and then by the time we look at the playoff ladder and we go, oh shit, we should have actually won a few of those games in the beginning, and now we're too far back. We got eliminated pretty late last year in the playoffs, a lot later than we had thought. I think that we were going to get eliminated, but all thanks to Paolo and Franz for pulling us. But Do we get a play-in spot this year? Maybe. Are we going to crack the top 10 in any offensive rating this year? Maybe. I think Jamal Mosley's doing an incredible job. I think he's still my favorite coach by far on this team that this team has had in the last 10 years. I don't want to talk about Jacques Vaughn, who beat us last night. I don't want to talk about Frank Vogel or Steve Clifford or Scott Skiles, he had something cooking, and then I'm sure later on in this league recap this season, I'll sprinkle in a fuck Rob Hennigan episode and break down what horrible things he did to this team. But yeah, the second thing, I digress. The second thing is that we cannot compound mistakes with more mistakes. And that is a thing that Hubie Brown says all the time. For example, you turn the ball over, don't foul the guy on the other end. Okay? You already owe the team 2 points for a wide open dunk. Don't fucking foul the guy and make it 3. We're compounding losses and mistakes right now, and if we didn't have a luck of the draw with Dame not playing on Saturday night, we'd be looking at 5 straight losses. We lost to Dallas. We lost to Atlanta, beat Milwaukee, we lost to Brooklyn. So that's 3 out of the last 4 we've lost. And I say 5 in a row because I don't think that we're going to beat the Bulls. And I will tell you right now, if we don't beat the Bulls tonight, if we don't figure it out against this team that clearly has problems with their lineup, star-studded, mind you, Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic are no slouches. Those are good basketball players. Defensively, maybe not so great, but those are 3 guys that will give us problems, because if there's one thing that we have issues with, it is shooting and defending people who shoot the ball. And those guys do that very, very well. We know all too well about what Nick Vucevic can do. Now, can we take advantage of him on the defensive end and get him mixed up with some screen and roll coverages? Yes. Is it going to be as good without Wendell Carter in there? No. And that sucks, because Wendell loves to play in Chicago now, because it's a revenge game every time. I think they gave up on him too early, and we'll see. But it really, really makes me think that I can't help but to think that if the Magic lose these 2 to Chicago, one of them being an in-season tournament game, which is taking place on Friday, if we lose these 2, start to look at some big changes and things that are coming down the pipeline, because this is a team we have to beat. This is one of those teams that's in the same position as us in terms of the general standings and ratings and everything like that. We have to beat the teams. Forget about the juggernauts. Forget about Boston. Forget about Milwaukee. Forget about Philly. Forget about the top 3 right now. Beat the teams that are ahead of you. Take baby steps and then take off. It's annoying to me that last year we go 3 of 4 against the Celtics or whatever. I think we went 3 of 4. We beat them 3 out of 4 times. But there are teams still that are right around us in terms of youth, skill level, experience, and overall record that we can't just take a step above. It's insane how many times this happens every single fucking year. Every single year. We look at the top of the conference, and I said it this year. I said, if everything goes right for us, this is the optimistic caveat. If everything goes right, which it hasn't already, but if everything did go right this year, we could be second in the conference, because Miami's always going to figure it out. I don't care who they have on their team. They're going to figure it out. It's the most frustrating thing in the world, but it just happens. They're going to find some random guy. They're going to find somebody who they're going to light a fire under somebody's ass that has played like dog shit for months, maybe years. And then all of a sudden it's going to be, wow, these guys are such a good basketball team. Top of the division, probably a top 5 seed. Probably, because the basketball gods hate me. So it'll definitely be an interesting thing to see how the Southeast shakes out this year, because we know Charlotte and we know Washington are going to be bad. But Are the Magic going to be worse than one of those teams? Maybe. We're about one injury away from being worse than Washington, and I'm not kidding when I say that. We are 3 people down in our major minutes guys now, and one more guy means that we're going to have to start someone who wouldn't make a Division I basketball team. Well, okay, all right, let's relax. Sorry. They would. Okay, let me just say this. They'll start a guy who wouldn't start in 27 out of 30 teams, okay? So, there's that. I don't know what else to say. I went on a long tangent, and I have many, many things that I just I don't want to do this again. I don't want them to show promise and to build everybody up and then take a dump in the middle of the season, because we have a tough schedule coming up, and you implement the in-season tournament play with this, and it creates this, I guess, kind of precursor to the playoffs for us, because we have zero experience in playing elimination games. There's really not. I would say Gary Harris and Joe Ingles have both played in playoff series, but in terms of any playoff series, we don't have anybody on the team that is familiar with this. So, say what you want about this team and say that I'm being negative. Say that these things are an issue. But I just got one thing to say. Hit your fucking shots. Please, don't do this to us again. Do not do this to us again this year. After all the hope that we built up in the offseason, after all the talk about Paolo being the man and Franz being a gold medalist and Markelle Fultz coming back healthy and Wendell being young enough to still excel and grow into the prime of his league. You know, all the hype about Jalen Suggs potentially being a defensive player of the year, all the hype about Cole Anthony getting the extension and being the guy, being the face of us in terms of personality and social media and just presence and energy and electricity on the floor. Stop talking about it and fucking do it. I'll leave with saying this. I know it's been a lot of negativity. I know it's been a lot of things that a lot of people, especially Magic fans, don't want to hear. I do believe in this team, which is why I'm so hard on them. I do believe that we can be good. Not great, but we can be good. We can be respectable. We can be a team that people should not fear, but respect when they come into our building or when we go to theirs. The moral of the story is that we don't have shooting, which is it's the common trope of this team. I'm beating a dead horse over and over and over again. I get it. But those are the issues, and those are things we can fix. So I just want to say to everybody out there, I know that they're not going to hear this, but I just got to throw it out into the ether and see. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of listening to people say what is going to get done with this team. I'm tired of all of the promises of leveling up. I'm tired of a decade of us being at the bottom of total wins. I'm tired of players consistently underperforming. And I'm tired of people saying that this team is bad, because we aren't that bad, but we haven't shown them anything. So all I have to say is this. If you want to be good, stop fucking talking about it and show us. Show us everything that you can do, because otherwise, no one's going to believe in anything that you can get done. So just go out there and fucking perform. Do what you know how to do best. I guess that's it. Go Magic? ? We'll see you next time.